welcome to fmtraining.tv. My name is Margaret. I'll be your broadcast engineer for today. I'm here with the wonderful Calvin Moseman. Calvin is a fantastic senior engineer of many, many years, and people who
Good
watch stream
afternoon.
regularly will recognize him. He's one of our best trainers. Real quick, we're going to talk about the live stream training schedule if it loads today. It might not. We always gets debatable. So today we're continuing our coding-specific mechanical functionality in FileMaker for beginners. Basically, this is scripts can look really intimidating. The scripting language in FileMaker can seem really intimidating, especially if you're not a programmer of any history. But it's actually pretty straightforward. If you can verbally talk someone through what you think should happen in order to move information, you should be able to script it. FileMaker's language is pretty good about being analogous to that. So, if you'd like to support the channel real fast, feel free to pick one of these up. I know that we do live streams daily, 5 days a week. But they're not always everyone's cup of tea. I always get a comment occasionally going like, hey, you guys are talking fast, or I don't really like the Q&A format, or this is a really long video on a topic. That's why we have these annual subscription bundles. They're very short, highly animated, very focused, smaller videos on pretty much everything in the FileMaker platform. So I think that we're good. Calvin, what are we doing today?
Yeah, good afternoon. So we are picking up the conversation with scripting. And one thing we want to think about when we're scripting something is walking somebody through whatever process that we're doing. A lot of times with the scripts that I write, somebody is working in FileMaker and they are going through a process that is really tedious or really repetitious. And they say, can't we just have a button that does this? And usually the answer is yes. But we need to be able to walk through that workflow of what's going on and then figure out how we can do that. And then sometimes when I'm writing these scripts, I even walk through the process as I'm writing the script so that step by step I know I'm making the right decision and accomplishing what my goal is. So in this scenario, let's say we have this file and we've got Jesse's Animal Rescue. But when I go over here and select the invoice to look at these invoices that are related to it, I see that the account doesn't say Jesse's Animal Rescue, it says Richard Carlton. So it looks like what happened here was that the name of the company was changed. Now, for historical data, maybe this one that's paid, we want to leave that name on there. But for all these other ones, all these other records that, there's one that actually does have the right name on it. But these ones that don't have the right name, we want to write a script that will go through the process of updating this. Now, I could just go in here and go copy and paste, or how some people do it, they just select all, copy. Oops, that was the wrong one we copied. Select all, copy, and then paste. But who wants to do that through, how many records do we have? We only have 19 records here. Most people have a lot more than 19 records that they'll need to clean up if they're cleaning up records. So we want a scripted process that's going to make this easy and painless. How are we going to do that? So let's just walk through the process of what it's going to take. Now, first of all, we know the ID is correct. And using copy and paste is probably the most basic way of doing it that would be for a person. But let's say that we don't want to use copy and paste because that's just not the right way to do it if we're scripting. So we're going to want to navigate to invoices and then do a find for this particular account. So we got account number 1. And so here we'll go to I guess we don't have the IDs visible, which obviously we don't need to have them visible, but let's just, for the sake of the demo, we're going to put one out, we're going to put this here, do ID account. So we're going to navigate over here. We're going to start with the ID as account number 1. We're going to navigate to accounts or invoices. We're going to do a search. So we entered find mode and we put in the account number. And we found a number of records, but we don't want to update the ones that are paid. So I'm going to try that find again and create a new record. And on the status, where's our status field? status is right here. And I'm going to say paid, and we're going to omit the paid ones. Perform find. So here they are. And now I'm going to do a relookup on this field here, which would be records relookup. I'm not going to do it right now because I want the script to handle it. So that was a pretty simple process that we walked through. And that's going to be the process we want to script. Let's go ahead and open up the script debugger or a script workspace, try that out. So we go to do that, we go to tools or scripts, script workspace. And let's create a new script here at the top. And we're going to call this relookup invoice account IDs. Okay. So we're going to put that one at the top. And so what are the steps we're going to start with? I'm going to say new window. We're going to start with a new window. And we're not going to use that invoice layout because I don't want, there's script triggers associated with that window. So we're going to use a different invoice layout. So you can see right here which ones have script triggers and which ones don't. Now I'm going to just use this that's the line items. We don't want that. We don't want the list report. Okay. So this maintenance invoice is what we're going to use, this one right here. And let's go ahead and put a close window on there. So we're opening a window and we're closing it. Now we want to set a variable. So I'm not doing this quite in order, and this variable is going to be for the ID account. And let's put in ID account here. Okay, so now we're opening a new window and we will go to find mode. And I'm going to turn pause off. Now, if you want user interaction, you would have the find mode on. But in this case, we're not. So perform find. Now we need to set some fields. We'll say set field. And we're going to pick our ID account field. And we want to set it with that variable. Not just that though, because we aren't using UUIDs, I'm going to put this equals, which means it has to match perfectly so that we get the right one. I'll say ID, and this autocomplete on my variables is from the Monkey Bread plugin. So we got that. Now perform find. Now we want to do an error capture here. If there's no error, the error code will be 0. If there is an error, it won't be 0. So if there is an error, we're going to close the window and show a custom dialog. Just going to say message, no invoices to update. Okay. And then exit script. Okay. Now, if there are records, then we'll do a relookup. And I'm going to turn the dialog off because we know we want to do it. And I will go to, what are we looking up? ID account. Now, one thing I missed here was that we do want to omit all old records. So I'm going to say new record, set field, and here I want the status. And we're going to just set that as paid. And then omit record. So when we're omitting the record in the find, that is telling us we don't want those in the found set. So there we go. And so then we'll relook up the record and close the window. Got it. Should we give it a try?
Yeah, we definitely should.
Okay. Do you have any questions before we give it a try?
I don't see any at the moment, so I think
okay, we're going to do this with the script debugger on so we can watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to press play. So we set our variable. Let's open up the data viewer so we can see what's going on here. And we already ran into a bug. There's no ID account. What's going on here? Let's look at this. So I'm grabbing the account ID from the wrong table. So let's just fix this. Oops. And we want ID count. There we go. So that will fix that problem. Let's try that again. And already it's going better. We got the ID account. We're opening up a new layout. And we're going to enter find mode. We set the field equals in the account name. We create a new record and we omitted a record, then we performed a find. And now we have 16 records that match. So we're going to go ahead and relook up those fields and close the window. So now when we go back over to the invoices, we should see that all of these, except for the paid one, are Jesse's Animal Rescue. We updated it that fast.
Bless you. That's
Excuse
awesome.
me. So we updated it that fast, and these other ones that aren't related. Those obviously didn't get updated, and so it was that fast. So do we have any questions about this before we kind of dig a little deeper?
I don't see any questions. I assume people are following. Let me know
Okay.
if you guys aren't.
Let's jump over to invoices. And I'm just going to call this one re-lookup account name. You probably wouldn't call it that. I'm just calling it that so we know what we're doing. We could call it like refresh account name or something like that. But now we have a place to go to update these. And let's go ahead and assign it to our new script. And let's change Jesse. Jesse actually is IE. And if we look over here, we see it's not spelled right. Let's go back over to accounts. And I'm going to run it without the script debugger. Now let's see. Now it's updated. Now, in this case, what I'm doing is I'm just opening up a window in a actually, I'm not even moving it. It's just happening so fast that you don't see it happening. But if this is hosted, it's going to be a little slower. If you have a lot more records than 20, it's going to go a little slower. So maybe we want some kind of dialogue in there. So let's go ahead and create that. So what I'm going to do is go to the invoices folder here. And I'm going to create a new layout. I'm just going to call this invoice dialog card. We'll finish that. We'll open it. And let's make this a little smaller. And this is just something to give the user a little bit of feedback so they know what's going on. So have you ever had somebody think that their app is toast or stuck because it's just working too long? We don't give them any feedback.
Yes.
We can just say updating records. And in here, I'm just going to insert, go to file, insert, other symbol, and we want found count. So here, when they look at this, let's go ahead and say none. And so they're going to get this little dialog, and it's going to say updating update on X number of records, updating 19 records, however many it is. So let's go back over to I'm going to leave that open just for reference. Go back over here. And now on this, instead of just saying a new window, I'm going to say I want a new card window. And instead of this layout, I'm going to go to the invoices dialog card, this one. I don't want the close option, and let's go ahead and dim the parent window. That will make it a little more obvious. And then here, right before we do the lookup, I'm going to have a little pause in here. Now, we don't want it indefinitely. We just want it barely there. Okay. So let's go ahead and try that. So Jesse is now spelled with a Y. And let's just see that these are, okay, these are all spelled wrong. Let's go fix that over in invoices. And I'm going to say relookup. Now that didn't take very long, but if there were a lot more records, it would have taken a while. Let's just give it a 1 second wait in there. Now, if we don't have the 1 second wait, let's just see how long it takes. We might not even see it happen. And do you see that? Nothing to see happened.
Yes.
It didn't even gray it out. And I don't think that's because, now it's Jess's. Let's change the name and just try one more time. We're going to see if this does anything. Yeah, nothing. So we just want a real brief pause in there so people know something's happening. Sometimes we have to have a little dialogue in there just so people know something's going on. Now we're changing it to J. Okay, let's see what happens. Updating 16 records. Oh, it closed. So something must have happened, and you can see it happened over here. So we're walking through the process step and taking each of these steps and doing something that we could have done by hand, but we are automating that with a script to make it that much easier to accomplish something. Do you have any questions about this or any other scripting questions?
We have someone asking how you tackle particularly difficult requests for scripts. Like, how do you plan them out? Do you just kind of wing it and see if it works? Do you write out a list?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So I had something come up that was kind of difficult, and it ended up being, whenever you deal with loops, that can be a really that can be a little tedious. And not just like loop through records, that's not that bad. But if you're looping through, and if you have loops inside of loops inside of loops, I think I have this one process I just finished last week that was like 3 or 4 loops within loops. And in those cases, what I try to do is break down each task that, in that case, you're accomplishing, each loop accomplishes something different. And in this case, it was creating certain records. And so each loop kind of accomplishes its own thing. And so you take a big process like that, and then you break it down into smaller scripts. And it's easier to do that because you're not scrolling through 300, 400, 500 lines, which I've seen scripts that long. And then you can test each one individually and make sure each part of it's working. And then when you put them all together, then it should work all together. So that's kind of how I plan those out. And in that particular one, I had to sit there and think about what I was going to do. And usually you just start with the smallest, easiest chunk and do it. Start with that. And then you can kind of figure out your way building the rest of it. You know, when you have to eat an elephant, it's one bite at a time, right?
That makes sense. So, do you have the scripts basically call the next script in the line when you're doing multiple broken up scripts, or do you combine them all at the end?
No, I'll have them all separated in the end. In
Got
the
it.
end, you don't, it's easier to debug smaller scripts So usually you would want to do it that way anyway. In some cases, though, the trying to think what the scenario was. I was creating reports on the server, and you cannot append to a PDF that is created. You can't append a report to a PDF that was created by another script on the server. So in that case, we had to do one long script creating all these different reports, when I would rather have each report have a separate script that appended to the PDF, but FileMaker server doesn't allow us to do that. So it has to be one long script. That was a little frustrating, but we got through it.
That makes sense. Someone is pointing out that this sort of relookup stuff can be dangerous for the database. So,
Yeah, so obviously you want to be real careful. One thing that we're doing here is we're making sure we're not looking at, so that's why we have this paid option that we are omitting. So any historical data, usually a reason why we have a lookup is because we want to know what the data was on that day from the related table. So in this case, the company was called Richard Carlton Consulting on 7/12/2017. But then on this date, 4/15/2024, it's Jay's Animal Rescue. And this is still active. We don't want to send an invoice to somebody with the wrong company name. They'll say, hey, you're not billing the right people. This is supposed to go to what other company. So we only want to update future records. And that's why we're being careful here to make sure we're avoiding anything that's paid. You could change this to anything after a certain date or before a certain date. So you're only updating the records that you want. But yeah, running a relookup is a little dangerous, and it can touch more than one record. Maybe you don't want to use relookup. We could do it a different way. Do we want to do it a different way? So when you do a relookup, let me show you what's going on here. When you do a relookup, it's going to so this field right here is account name, and it's based on this relationship based on the ID account. Now, if you run a relookup, it's going to update this name. Now, let me see if there's anything else here based on that name. It doesn't look like there is. So what I'm going to do is add what field do we want to add? We're going to add phone number. So we're going to update the phone number here. Is there a phone number?
is there somehow missing a phone number? That's kind of wild.
It might just not be on there. Okay, let's do the email. So we got this field here called contact email. So contact email. And this is a lookup. But I'm going to update this so that it's based on ID account email. So, and then over in accounts, we've got an email, and this will be info@janimalrescue.web. Okay. So here, now, if we look over at these invoices, all of these emails are wrong. So we want to do a relookup. Now let's use our handy dandy report or thing right here, and we go back over to invoices, and now we'll see all of these have the new email. So maybe for whatever reason you don't want to update the email, but you do want to update the name. In that case, we are not going to use a relookup. We are going to use a place field contents with dialog off. And this is, so when we did the relookup, it updated everything on both, it updated the name and the email address and anything else associated with that ID. Now, when we do a replace, we can target one specific field. So in this case, I'm going to do I'm going to say we want to leave the email the same, but we want to change the account name. And to specify this, now we remember the ID isn't changing, so we just want to reference the account name through that relationship. The relationship isn't broken. So let's say our account, we go over here and our thatcompany.com. So now we just changed the email and we're changing Jay's Animal Rescue to just Animal Rescue. Then when we go over here, we're not doing a relookup, so I'm going to just call this one update account name. That's a little more clear exactly what's going on. We're just updating that account name. Now, because we're doing the replace field contents, it's not going to touch the email. So at the end of this script, we should expect the names to be updated, but the emails to be left the same. Let's try it. Are we ready to go?
Yep.
We got our dialogue. Let's jump over there and see what happened. And so just as we wanted, Animal Rescue is there, but the email address stayed the same. It did not update. So as was said, the replace field the relookup can be dangerous, and replace field contents can be dangerous as well. But in either case, we're being careful about exactly what fields we're touching and what records we're updating. Good comments there. Any other questions?
No, I think we're good. I don't see any other questions. Are people following along? I assume so. It's a pretty good explanation.
Okay. Well, let's try it another way. So there's a lot of times when you run into when you're going through scripts, someone said, how do you plan it out? Sometimes you plan it out and at the end you realize, oh, there was a better way, a faster way, or just a different way that would make it easier or more user-friendly, whatever it is. So let's look at another way to accomplish the same thing. So I'm going to use go to related record to do this instead. So now in this case, we are going to the invoices. We're going to specify what layout. We want the card layout, and we want this in a new window. I'm going to specify a card. And this time I don't want to dim the parent window. And I'm going to say only show related records. That's really key, really important in something like this. And one other thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to do some error capturing in the beginning. If we want O1, and I don't know what is invoices, H ID invoice. So I'm going to say, actually, let's do ID constant. ID constant does not equal 1, exit script. So here we're doing some checks before we go into the script. And in this case, we're saying, just make sure there's records to update. And so here we're making sure that there's records. Now, if we do this where there's no records, so this one has one invoice, just creating a new record. And so here there's no invoices. If I run the script, it's going to immediately go to exit script and not work. So that's what we want. So we got that working. So now we're going to go to a related record. And now we could we could just have it go there and update everything, but we don't want that. Remember, we wanted to only update the ones that were not paid. So let's go to enter find mode, turn off the pause. And what I'm going to do is copy some of these. So Command D to duplicate, Control arrow up to move up, Command / to enable. So we're going to, instead of perform find though, we want to constrain bound set. So this way we're only getting the ones that are not marked as paid. And then if there's an error, we'll go through the same errors as before. Let's go ahead and try this out. We need to update this. So we're going to call this one ABC Rescue. And we can still use a replace field contents. That's okay. Let's try it. Operation could not be completed because the target is not part of a related table. Okay.
Oh,
Let's see what happened. Let's try this with the script debugger. So, so there's our problem right there. And I just locked myself. So if you ever have a card window and you don't have the close button option, you might need to just add a new script here called close window. And you can enable this to show up in the scripts and just say close window. So my problem here is that the old way I was opening a new window. In this one, I want to open that new window and go to related record. And what I really should do is if get last error does not equal 0, exit script. So I think we might have a problem here. If we jump over here, oh no, it's still there. We're good. I was afraid that we had changed the name. Let's go ahead and try this. So we'll go here. Oh, then these are all ABC Rescue. So it partially worked. So it worked because we did a omitted. It still did the find to omit the paid records. Let's change this to XYZ Animal Rescue. Jump over to invoices and say update. Updating 16 records. Now you'll notice it didn't give me the grade background because we're using the other step. And now we have XYZ Animal Rescue. So in this case, it worked using the go to related record. Let's go ahead and do that with the data viewer on. There we go. Sorry, the script debugger on. So we're going to set our variable and keep stepping. We went go to related record. It opened up in a new window, 17 records. We enter find mode. We set field with paid, or the status with paid. We omit, we constrain the found set. Now there's only 16 records. And we have that pause. The pause is just so we can see it, see the card window. And we do the replace, close the window. That's it. And we see XYZ Animal Rescue. That's how it went. Now, one thing that can be frustrating to some people is if they see a button that looks good and when they click on it and it changes color, so why isn't it doing anything? So one thing that you can do, and this is how I handle these, I didn't really want to put an error message there. You could put an error message. Let's say show dialog. I'm just going to put there is nothing for this button to do. What are you doing? Okay. So somebody comes in here. Have you ever had somebody push a button that you knew they shouldn't and you felt like giving them some crazy dialogue like this? Well, so let's not be that rude about it. Let's go to we'll go to our conditional formatting, add, and we're going to say our text color is going to be gray. Our icon color is going to be gray. Let's just make that a little lighter. And our formula is T01H. Was that what it was? Invoices ID constant does not equal 1. That's simple. So now when somebody sees this, I'm going to disable my dialog. They're going to look at it and they can click on it, and it doesn't look like it's doing anything. It's actually running a script, but the script immediately knows there's nothing to do here and just exits. So it's a nice way to give somebody feedback before they even click on it. And so here we know they can, that just intuitively looks like the button didn't disappear. I don't really like buttons disappearing because then people go, where'd the button go? It disappeared on me. But this way we see the button, but we know that there's no option. It's not going to do anything when we click on it. And it doesn't, when you click on it, it's not changing color, so we know it didn't do anything. So that's a way you can have the script and the button work together to give your user an experience that's intuitive and they know what they're doing. Any questions?
Labo 404, couldn't you just use set error capture on? I don't know quite what that was referring to specifically in
So yeah, usually, so in all of my scripts, we'll call it script settings. I'll say allow user abort off, set error capture on, usually freeze the window. Sometimes you don't need to freeze window. So those help not confuse the user. Now all this error capturing here is what I'm doing. I'm doing all the error capturing so FileMaker doesn't have to. And I'm giving it the dialogues that I want to use instead of FileMaker's error capturing. So let's go ahead and try some. So let's go ahead and look at what allow user abort off and set error capture on do. And so I'm going to update this to go back to our old way of doing this. So I'm disabling a whole bunch of this. We're going to set the ID. We're going to open that card window. We're going to perform a find. And I'm not going to give it an error message. No, I do want to give it this error message. We will leave the error message there. Show you what's going on. So let's go ahead and on this record, we'll do it with this one. So now this button looks like it doesn't do anything because we have great conditional formatting, but it will anyway for this demonstration. So we enter find mode, perform a find, and we get this error message. No records found. Let's say cancel. So now I'm canceled and stuck in this window. I have to use my handy dandy close window script to get open. So when your users get a note like this, no records match the find criteria, cancel, continue, modify, they don't know what that means. And this can be really scary in the middle of a script. And they'll say, cancel, now they're stuck. Or they can say, continue. And now we get a second message. Or they can say, modify find. And now they're stuck because we don't have any find options, any fields for them to enter on there anyway. So usually these allow user abort, set error capture on freeze window can help us get around those things. So now you'll notice this time, because all that I did, and let's just do one thing. We're going to turn error capture on. Now I didn't get an error message. Let's leave error capture off, but allow user abort off. Turn the allow user abort off. So that's on there. Now you'll notice I don't have a cancel button. No records match this find criteria. I'll just say continue. So usually if you don't want these, usually if you want to suppress the error capture and not allow people to cancel a process in the middle, you'll use both of these. Allow user abort off and set error capture on. Thanks for pointing out the error capture. Any other questions?
I don't see questions, just see the comment that the conditional formatting idea that conditional formatting idea is a great idea. Going to definitely use that one.
Good. Always happy when people find new ideas.
No, you did something earlier that like briefly blew my mind and you walked right past it. The inserting the get function as a merge field. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, so where was that? Let's go ahead and take a look at that. That's in this dialog. So this is actually pretty cool. You can do, I don't remember what version, it was version 19, maybe 18, allowed us to insert any get function. So you just go through here, and actually I just learned this one.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to File or Insert and User Count, I'd never heard of this one. Go to Browse Mode. User Count will tell you how many people are connected to an app at any given time. So this is a local app. I'm the only person connected. But if this was on a hosted app, if this was a hosted app, you could see how many people are currently connected, which is really cool. So what other things can we insert in there? We can insert, well, can we do multiple? Any of these that you want to look at. There's all the extended
Ah,
privileges.
this is
And
cool. Like I said, I didn't even know this existed. You just whipped this out and I was like, what? This is a
yeah, this is a new-ish uh,
feature.
new-ish feature. Yeah, I don't know. Um, I don't remember exactly when it came out,
I think
but
you're right that it came around in that time period because I stopped initially working in FileMaker at around 17.
okay. Yeah, it was
Uh,
after 17.
how to check if one of the records are locked before running the update?
Good question. Good question. So let's try. So let's see what would happen. So I'm going to say window, new window. I'm going to go over here and just start changing one of these records. And now when I'm going to turn off, I just want to see what our, oops, I don't want the error capture. Let's go new window. And perform fine. So I found 16 records. And let's do let's do a little pause here and replace. Now we got an error message. One total errors occurred during this operation. One records could not be modified because they were in use by other users or your privilege sets do not allow you to change them. So the other user is me in another window, but good point. So we know there that one of them didn't work. So you might do this a few different ways. You could either just give the person a dialogue. So let's try that one more time. And with the script debugger on. And now you'll notice I hit this set error capture on, so I'm not going to get FileMaker's error. But when we do this, we get error 201, field cannot be modified. So I don't think we can get any more details. Get error, last error details. I think that only works with external errors. So we could say show custom dialog if get last, oops, last error is not equal 0. Message. There was an error updating the records. Please review and try again. So we don't know, we're not analyzing what the error was. And you could give them the whole error and what the error message is. But this way, we at least know that we didn't accomplish what we wanted. So there's an error updating the records. Please review and try again. So now I can try it again. It's still not doing it. Now I can go into invoices and investigate and see which record might be giving me the problems, which it's not going to appear here because it's not committed yet. So then I can finally, let's go ahead and try this one last time, see if somebody got out of there. Well, I didn't get an error this time. It worked. So you can you can give as much or as little detail in the error message as you want. Sometimes that's useful to your users. In this case, I would just tell them we didn't accomplish everything we wanted to. Let's try again in a few minutes when the record's not in use.
That makes sense. Is there any way to be able to tell that it's specifically locked and have that pop up as an option, or?
You could do something where you looped through the. I don't think you can just test an entire found set. You could loop through the records, but I think that would cause I mean, it would take a while, and I don't think I would do it that way. It's going to be easier to give them the update after the fact because they'll want to change it anyway. But in this case, you could do a loop and check each record to see if it's available to make an edit to. But it would take a while, and I mean it will work pretty fast locally, but on a hosted machine or a hosted app with a lot of records, it's going to take longer. And then you're going to end up giving a similar message, hey, you aren't going to be able to change all the records. So this process was canceled. Try again later. So it kind of gives us, we come to the end, we end up in the same spot at the end.
That makes sense. Cool. Someone asked if there's a progress bar plugin in FMSP.
There's not a progress bar plugin, but Wolfpack has a progress bar add-on. You can use that.
I'll grab that link for you real fast. Mike, give me a second. Wolfpack, FileMaker add-ons.
We could look at the progress bar sometime.
Yeah, we haven't done a progress bar thing in a while. It's always a popular topic. Boop. I remember one. Sorry.
So there is a progress bar in FMSP, and the add-on uses the same progress bar, except the add-on just makes the add-on is more for a dialogue. The progress bar that we do have in FMSP is this one here, and it's using the same technique in the add-on, except that it's just making it putting in a dialogue. But go ahead and check that one out. I definitely like the sometimes the startup on this is pretty fast, but sometimes if you want to load a bunch of records or you have a bunch of things that happen in the startup process, I will put a progress bar on the startup screen so people know that the app's not just stalling for 2 minutes or whatever it is to take it to open up. And so that can be helpful. Okay, anything else?
I think we're good. Thank you very much, Calvin. This has been fantastic. Y'all have a lovely day. We will catch you tomorrow. Tomorrow should be interesting. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.